All right, welcome back to TEW Impact for week 2 of December. I wanted to get this. I originally wanted to do this before Thanksgiving, but that didn't exactly happen, and time kind of got away from me. So the return to work and everything. But anyway, it's here now. Getting things back on track. Um, And I'm just going to go ahead and start with the news. We don't have a ton of news. We have a decent amount of news regarding us, but I made a conscious effort to kind of pare down the news overall, unless it's, something major or, something stateside. Um, I'm not like most foreign stuff. Well, I wouldn't say foreign, but like unless it's like a big name like New Japan or a major name from Japan, something goes down there, I'll mention it. But I really, kind of, if it's not something I recognize, I won't put it in the news anymore. Just to kind of make these episodes a little bit shorter. But we'll see. For the numbers from last week, BTI TV rating 0.01 as always. Overall rating was a 30, down from a 35. Our TV rating for Impact was still a 0.36, no change, and it's still our record high. We have been maintaining that for the last 2, 3 weeks now. Our overall rating for Impact was a 46, up from a 45. Unfortunately, our attendance dropped even further. It's a 302, down from a 313. And this is where I guess the advantages of keeping track of things in a spreadsheet comes in because I realized that this is our lowest rating or our lowest attendance that we've gotten so far in the game. So yeah, that kind of sucks. Like we started out the year in like twice this, like in the 600s and 500s, and it dropped down pretty quickly to like the 300s and 400s, and kind of stayed in that 300 range between like mid 300 range throughout the year, but we just keep suffering those southeast regional battle losses, I guess, and that's kind of hurt us attendance wise. Everything else seems to be okay. Like I said, we got a record high so far. TV rating, our overall ratings are up. I can't remember 46 how high our record high overall rating is, but 46 is got to be up there. But yeah, Impact news. Last week, like I said, like I've been saying, Maria Kanellis is retired from in-ring action, and she's still available as a manager and personality. So, like, I kind of wrote her off. Like last week's match was kind of like a good. I wouldn't say goodbye, but she'll still be around. We'll still use her in some shape or form. But I do have storyline plans. I think I'm gonna keep her off TV for at least a little bit, and do something with that. But also, Homicide and Jordan Grace have returned from their injuries. Homicide suffering undisclosed illness before our pay per view, and Jordan Grace, I can't remember what injury she had. I think it's like a torn abdomen muscle, maybe. Um, but yeah, they are back, full health. Um, like I won't really get into it. I know Homicide. I don't have any plans for. Jordan Grace. I have plans for sooner rather than later. Christian Cage appeared at the Pro Wrestling Australia's Fight Before Christmas due to the loan that they had, and lost to Matt Diamond. Those of you who listen to Guys, a podcast about guys, may think that Matt Diamond is a flub, but no, he's a real person. Apparently, he wrestles in Australia and beats Christian Cage, our world champion, in matches. But the loan period is over. Uh, I'm sure they'll probably try to get him again. So I guess I want to make sure I don't have any conflicts that might happen. Like I said, I think they run shows like the first Saturday of each month. Um, so we just got to make sure our pay-per-views don't run there at the same time. Hikuleo has been called up from New Japan Strong to New Japan on a non-exclusive written contract, so he is still under contract with us, but um, considering now that he is on a New Japan schedule, I doubt we will be using him that often. And so yeah, he's basically in the Crusade, and honestly, he's kind of just like the muscle, the backup muscle. I'm perfectly fine with them being a three piece if need be, and Hikuleo can just go to New Japan if he wants. And we can use him sparingly. Because I imagine with that New Japan schedule, we're not going to be able to use him very often, much like Joe Doring's All Japan schedule, where he's working like every day. Um, a New Japan schedule isn't that bad, but it's pretty bad. Um, and then Mickie James has extended her handshake deal with NWA. It was previously a written deal, so she's now on a handshake with both of us. She did come back recently with us after not using her for most of the year. So we might sign her under like some sort of written deal, maybe. But when the time comes for that, uh, we'll deal with it then. American news. Not a lot. Like I said, I've been trying to pare the stuff down. WWE, Otis, and Apollo Crews have extended their exclusive written deals. I didn't put it here, but there are people leaving WWE when their contracts are up. A number of which we might be interested in. One name I am very interested in, but they might be out of our price range. Like it's a big name. That I was kind of shocked that it was announced that they would not be renewing their deal, like a main eventish name. Um, the story behind it actually kind of makes sense, but I won't go into it because I don't want to spoil anything if we do end up signing this person. Um, but yeah, there might be others coming in, people that we could use. So keep an eye out for that. Speaking of people leaving, Wardlow has left AEW. I don't know. This was another contract run out where they did not renew it. I don't know if I've mentioned this before when the news was announced, but Wardlow's contract has just not been renewed. I don't know if we would bring Wardlow in, at least not right now. Anyway, I wouldn't have plans for him right now. Anyway, oddly enough, they reached an agreement with Independent Wrestling TV, Mexico, to air Dark Dynamite and Rampage, just to air their shows in Mexico. I did not know IWTV had a Mexico only stream, I guess, or Mexico only deals. But then AEW is just like, hey, we want to air our shows in Mexico, and we're going to use IWTV to do it, which does not really make a whole lot of sense to me, but whatever. MLW, some big news regarding TJP. Everywhere he goes, um, this case MLW, he has gone AWOL and he no-showed the Opera Cup, which was their last big event. And then a few days later, got in an argument with their booker. So, previously that had happened with Defy, I believe, and now it's MLW. I think he's working one other place. I don't remember where. Maybe New Japan Strong. Yeah, sorry, my cat's underneath my feet. I want to get her out of there. Uh, and then GCW, Matthew Justice has left. I think I did mention he put in like his 30 days notice, but Matthew Justice gone from GCW. More American news, mostly production issues. New Japan Strong increased their broadcast quality to hired pro, music to local, live event experience to medium. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood increased production values to professional, broadcast quality to hired pro, music to local, and live event experience to small. And for NWA, Natalia Markova extended her handshake deal. And retirements, like I said, not a lot of news. And retirements, the retirement feed has dripped down substantially. No announced retirements for like the third week in a row. And Maria Kanellis and Taka Michinoku's retirements have gone into effect. Before the impact, so we start off with. Okay, I'm trying to remember because I booked this like over a week ago, almost 2 weeks ago. Basically, we start off with a pre-show promo. Joe Hendry, Nick Stapp CPA, and the Boar, kind of outside the studio or wherever the arena happens to be, with "Get on Board" signs and doing a chant with "Get on Board" with the fans that are in line, ready to enter the arena. When and they're all, being chummy with the fans, getting involved, getting them hyped up for the show. When all of a sudden, Black Taurus, Matthew Raywalt, and Steve Macklin jump them and beat them down in front of the fans. So probably embarrassing them as well. Um, so not a good start with getting on board, especially with the Boar suffering losses since he's come in. W. Morrissey defeating Enlightened Steve. The match made last week where if Steve just so happened to defeat Morrissey, then we would assume that Morrissey would not like join the Enlightened, but also Falaba, Raj Singh, and Mahabali Shera would stay on board with Steve. But basically, an extended squash that would not happen for Steve. Morrissey planning him likely with like a few power bombs and pinning him, no problem. After the match, Morrissey celebrates, goes to the back, and then Ba and Shera and Singh remain at ringside, and Steve's like just kind of on his knees, like kind of getting up to his knees and just like kind of like hoping, that they would stay with him, and he's like, please stay with me, and they just like shake their head and walk to the back, and leaving Enlightened Steve alone in the middle of the ring. So basically, they're gone. Steve has no flock to follow him, so he is sad. So yeah, no Morrissey and no Falaba or Singh or Shera. He's got nobody. He is alone. Um, and then we go backstage to Brian Myers in the Learning Tree. Uh, Basically talking about the match results they had last week. On the good side, VSK and Avery Good were able to beat Larry with the D and Caleb with the K. And Myers kind of remarks like, well, of course they should be able to beat them. They're like the two of the biggest jobbers in the company. If they weren't able to beat them, then that's an insult to my training. And Dylan Postel kind of insults Brian Myers, like, well, you were unable to beat Jonathan Gresham on Impact last week, you know. And Myers is like, well, you you pair my underlings with, the biggest jobbers in the company, and then you pair me with like the best young, technical grappler going today. And Postel's like, hey, I thought you were the most professional wrestler. I thought you could, you'd be able to beat somebody like Gresham. Apparently I was wrong. And, worse yet, you blasted him with a chair. You got yourself disqualified. What the hell's gotten into you lately? And Myers is just, kind of mad and just doesn't really have any retort to that. And he's like, and Postel's just like, whatever. Uh, let's just put this behind us. You know, you guys, VSK and Good, you guys won. Myers, you lost, but you know, I got next week. I got you guys in a 6-man. Want to make sure you guys are all on the same page, able to win as a team. Blah 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 blah. So, yeah, uh, putting booking a 6-man for Myers and VSK and Avery Good next week to see how they function as a team. And then also a match made last week. Rich Swan wanted a match for the digital media title against Zhao Zia and won, defeating Zhao Zia to win the digital media title. Uh, there were some shenanigans, of course. Susan accompanied Rich to ringside, and at one point, like Susan got up on the apron and taunted Zia, and there was a light show, lights flickering, and when they came back, Su Young was on the apron, and that was enough for Rich Swann to roll Zia from behind and pin her. And basically after the match was done, the lights flickered back off and on, and Susan was back. So camera trickery or whatever, pre-tape magic uh, regarding uh, Rich Swann. And so now Rich Swann is the new digital media champion, and we end the show with him and Susan celebrating. Might kind of seem out of nowhere, and honestly, it is, but I do want to move Zhao Zia to the more of the main roster. I have plans for her to factor in the larger knockouts division, uh, putting the digital media title on Rich Swann. Rich always turns in good matches with just about anybody he's in the ring with, so that should be good for the belt. Honestly, Zhao Zia's reign with the belt was pretty good. I was looking at the stats, and they did improve with her, as the champion. I think honestly the digital media uh prestige rating, I guess, was below the Knockouts tag team titles, now is above it. So she's done well with it, but honestly, I just kind of threw it on Rich Swann because I know he can deliver, and I don't necessarily have exact plans for him or the digital media title, but I did have plans for Zhao Zia. And I know putting the title on Rich Swann, he can turn in good matches whenever. So I don't know, a win-win, I guess. But Rich Swann, the new digital media champion. Um, backstage and well, overall rating we got a 38, which I guess is par for the course anymore. But that match got a 41. Match note: Rich and Zaya had great chemistry in the ring, which is good to know. Um, and there was a backstage incident where Johnny Bravo won a video game tournament. So things are going good. Backstage morale is good. People are having great chemistry in the ring. I'm not really gonna follow up with the whole Zhao Zia and Su Young thing. That like I said, I have plans for her involving the overall uh, knockouts division. So expect to see more of her on actual Impact instead of before the Impact, and on pay-per-view matches instead of pre-shows with the title. So which is kind of where the digital media title kind of resides. But yep, that's it for news. That's it for before the Impact. Let's just go to Impact. All right, so we start off Impact with some 6-man triple Impact, if you will, action. Swingers Palace versus the team of Juice Robinson and Power and Finesse. Juice wanting to make sure that his partners for his title match at the pay-per-view against Dalton Castle and his boys for the inaugural Triple Impact Champions. Wanting to make sure he can gel with his new partners, and it seems like he can because they got the win in the end. Juice Robinson pitting Johnny Swinger. Again, this was made mostly to see how well these three coexist, and I'm not seeing anything that says they won't. No great chemistry, no good chemistry, but no bad chemistry. So hopefully, we can see how they will perform at Final Resolution. Um, Chris Bay with a 48. Juice Robinson with a 40, Will Hobbs with a 38, Alex Zane with a 40. We need to do more with Alex Zane. Swinger with a 25, and Zicky with a 31. Johnny Bravo doing good work at ringside, but yeah, their warm up match, wanting to make sure if they can coalesce, and it looks like they will. So Juice and Power and Finesse. Um, Segment rating of 39 to start off the show, and basically after the match, well, not so much after the match, but during the match, this is just Dalton Castle and the boys watching the match from ringside or from the stage or what have you. Segment rating of 17, which kind of sucks, but it was really a small segment of just them, being shown on camera and basically kind of at ringside watching the match and then kind of like mock applauding once Juice and Power and Chris Bay and Will Hobbs win their match. But, we find out who will be the first team to be the Triple Impact champions at Final Resolution. Will it be Dalton Castle and the boys, or will it be Juice and Power and Finesse? We'll find out. And we go backstage where we see Rosemary kind of down on her luck, just kind of sulking to herself backstage when she is confronted by Savannah Evans and Janai Kai. Just kind of they're poking and prodding at Rosemary. She's like, huh, like, oh, look at poor Rosemary. She's not the knockouts champion anymore. And a girl, Tasha, pinned her twice. Rosemary, I bet you're not, doing very well. And Rose just kind of lights at least a temporary fire under Rosemary, and she's like, "Well, we could probably beat the both of you," but that ends up not happening because the both of them begin to double team Rosemary and attack her and leave her down and out backstage. Segment rating of 26. So Rosemary's downward spiral seeming to continue with a backstage beatdown, 2-on-1, Savannah Evans and Janai Kai having their way with Rosemary. Not a good time for her. Killer Kelly versus Rachel Ellering. Killer Kelly defeating Rachel Ellering by submission. Wouldn't say completely one-sided. I did put Rachel Ellering thinking that, she could at least put up somewhat more of a fight, but Killer Kelly, her style and her submission uh, style of wrestling, putting Rachel Ellering down for good, does, win by submission. Sigma Ring 40, not too bad. Killer Kelly with a 41, Rachel Ellering with 35. So this is the first time we've used Rachel in a while. But she seems to be doing all right. But that's more of a point because basically after the match, Killer Kelly refuses to let go of the submission until Willow Nightingale runs out and gets a few shots in, but Killer Kelly kind of prevents Willow from getting the too much of an upper hand. Like Willow gets in enough shots to break the submission, but Kelly also kind of rolls out knowing that the job is done, and Willow checking on her friend Rachel Ellering and former stablemate. So maybe something to come out that maybe Killer Kelly's doing this on purpose to get more into Willow Nightingale's mind, playing mind games with her, probably. So that continues. Segment rating of 27 for that. And we get a video afterwards, basically a training video. Jordan Grace working out, getting into shape. Like we said, her, injury, she's fully healed from her injury. So this is just kind of saying, she's getting back in the mix. She's training, and her uh, return is imminent. Segment rating of 45, which is very good for just a video angle, as it seems. So Jordan uh, at least having enough hype to have a return video and have it do fairly well. And then in our first match of the night for the World X Cup, Team Canada of Petey Williams and Mike Bailey, the team where we thought they might not be able to coexist, they at least do for tonight because they defeat Team Mexico of Mascara Dorada and Laredo Kid. Mike Bailey pinning Mascara Dorada with an Ultima Weapon in almost 10 minutes. So, like I mentioned last week, tag team matches with the captains and the lieutenants of each team. This one, Canada versus Mexico. This will be 2 points. The winner getting 2 points for this round. So finally putting, not only are PD and Mike Bailey able to coexist for tonight, but they finally got on the scoreboard. They have been scoreless. They've not been able to win a match till tonight. So maybe Team Canada has a chance to turn this whole thing around. And, with the unlikely alliance between Petey Williams and Mike Bailey, we'll see. Segment rating of 43. Petey Williams, of all people, having the lowest in ring performance, but their storyline gaining heat, which is good. So their issues will likely continue. But finally, Team Canada getting 2 points, getting on the scoreboard, not getting left behind in the dust. Um, Unfortunately for Team Mexico, not getting any points. And later on, we will get the other match for the World X Cup. And basically, after the match, they celebrate. So we lose our heat for our storyline. But yeah, basically, kind of PD kind of shocked that, even though he's kind of been a dick to him and did all these, underhanded tactics to get him on the team, Mike Bailey actually playing ball, them coexisting at least enough to win tonight's match. So they're in good spirits tonight, at least. Um, they're on, like I said, they're finally on the scoreboard coexisting. So maybe this thing could work. PD making the good choice of getting Mike Bailey on the team, even if he did it underhandedly. But segment rating of 34 for their post match celebration. And then we go backstage. We find the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, the BFFs of Chelsea Green and Deanna Prazzo. They're kind of talking about how they tried to help Maria, their friend Maria, last week, and they attack Gail Kim, they attack Mickie James, they hold her for Maria to get the final blow and finish her off, and Maria just tells them to let it go, tells them dumps them aside after everything they've done for them, even though they haven't really done a whole lot or haven't done a whole lot for her. They've just kind of been like tangentially related, but can't believe how Maria treated them last week when they are confronted by Gail Kim and Mickie James. I don't have them put, but imagine Nick Aldis is here, kind of uh, in Mickie James' corner for moral support because it'll come in handy. But basically, Mickey's just kind of wanting to get at the BFFs for what they did to her last week, embarrassing her in a tender moment with her friend Maria, and Gail gets in between them, and the BFFs are like, "Well, what did we do?" And Gail Kim's like, come off it. You guys know what you did. You had no right to, spoil the match between Mickie and Maria last week. And they've had business going back to way before you two have ever been in this business. So you had no right to interfere and ruin the match. And you had no right to put your hands on me and throw me out of the ring as an Impact uh, representative of management and a special referee. You had no right to put your hands on me and attack me. So, what I'm going to do is you two talk about not having competition for your tag team titles. Well, I'm forcing you to defend the titles. I'm forcing you to defend the titles next week on Impact against Mickie James, and I'm letting Mickie pick her own partner, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's your punishment for, ruining the match last week. And uh the BFFs are like, oh, you can't do that. And Mickey's just kind of like finally calming down from, wanting to basically rip their throats out. And Gail's like, oh, I can. I have the power to do that. And that gives a segment rating of 38. While that happens, basically, Nick Aldis gets pushed into the group and kind of disperses them because he is attacked from behind by Michael Bennett. So Michael Bennett, Maria's wife, attacking Nick Aldis. They, they had their issue. Well, they were both at ringside for the match between Mickie and Maria. Michael Bennett, now that Maria is quote unquote retired, Michael taking out his frustrations on Nick Aldis. So basically, like, Bennett attacks him from behind. Aldis, kind of just gets pushed into the group. They go out scattered. They scattered away. Gail Kim's calling for security while the two are brawling, and that's just kind of like a continuation segment of the previous segment. So segment rating of 36 for that. Um, their storyline continuing. So we'll see what will come of that. And then we get a promo from Brody King. It says Father Bateman's there. I would assume he's there because he's the manager, but this promo is mostly all Brody, while Father Bateman kind of stands behind him and kind of like chants in tongues to himself. But Brody's like just talking about Jake something. You stand in the way of my path of violence, and you stand in the way of my path of glory, my path to bigger things. And you come out and you ask these people what your name is. Well, I want to expunge your name from the history of wrestling. Basically, I want to make sure you never existed. I'm willing to get as violent as I can to take you out because the gospel of violence demands a sacrifice, and basically just the spooky the spooky intense language that the gospel of violence has always used. Segment rating of 35. Losing heat to the storyline, unfortunately, but Brody, I guess, has never been the greatest talker, but whatever. But yeah, Brody basically saying that, he will get as violent as he has to if it means, eliminating Jake something. Took out, he went into Monster's Ball, he took out the Monster PCO and buried him for good. And he's willing to do the exact same thing for Jake something if it means that something will no longer be a roadblock in Brody King's path. But again, segment rating of 35. We will see what comes of that. Then in our second match for the World X Cup, Team USA versus Team Australia. Captain and X Division champion Swerve Strickland and Willie Mack versus Captain Buddy Matthews and Jonah. This time it's Team Australia pinning Team USA. I believe this is Team USA's first loss in the World X Cup. Jonah pinning Willie Mack. Yeah, the getting the powerhouse of Jonah onto Team Australia has definitely been a good thing, and he took out the big man of Team USA and Willie Mack and was able to get the pin in 11:39. So, yeah, 2 points for Australia, no points for Team USA. Uh, Swerve with a 56, Jonah with a 52, Buddy with a 43, Willie with a 41. Segment rating of 49, which will probably end up being the best match of the night. But yeah, that makes 2 points for Australia, 2 points for Canada, and basically we get a celebration, kind of a mocking celebration, where the past couple of weeks, Team USA have been, like celebrating together, kind of like dancing, especially having Sam Beal of all people get a pin. So, they were getting hyped in their match or post match celebration. Now Buddy Matthews and Jonah are just kind of like mocking their dancing or whatever, and it's like, oh, we beat you, we beat the favorites, so uh they get to celebrate now. Segment rating of 39, and going to bring up the post match or the X Cup graphic. So our tag matches, captains and lieutenants, winners earning 2 points earlier. Team Canada, Petey Williams and Mike Bailey defeated Mascara Dorada and Laredo Kid of Team Mexico. 2 points for Canada. And then Team Australia, Buddy Matthews and Jonah defeated Team USA, Swerve and Willie Mack. 2 points for Australia. Team USA and Team Australia tied with 5 points. Team Canada and Team Mexico tied for last with 2 points. So we got some tiebreakers maybe going on here. We got 1 week of Impact, so we'll see how that shakes out. If the points change, there could be a chance where Mexico and Canada jumps up to where Australia and USA is at. We'll find out next week, and then we got the finals at Final Resolution. We'll see how those shake out. So yeah. All right. So we come back to Impact. Gia Miller standing by backstage with Jake Something, and Gia talking about how earlier tonight, a few segments ago, Brody King with his promo essentially laying out a challenge to Jake Something, and she wants to find out if Jake accepts, and Jake's like, "You're damn right I accept," because Brody King's been in a thorn in my side for the past couple weeks, past couple months. I'm sick of it. He claims to be on a path of glory and a path of violence. Well, I'm on that same path. I'm on that same path upward and onward to the top of Impact. And Brody King's not going to get in my way, just like he claims I'm not going to get in his way. And he talks about wanting to get violent. He doesn't know how violent I can get. I've been in last man standing matches. I've been in a bunch of matches. He talks about how he's been in Monsters Ball matches, blah, 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 blah. He's willing to get violent. I'm willing to get violent. And you know what? You know how willing to get violent I can get? Or how willing to get violent I am? Uh, Brody, I'm gonna let you pick the stipulation for this match. You and me at Final Resolution, you can have any match you want. We can do Monsters Ball again. We can do, whatever you want. I'm willing to get just as violent as you are. And when I put you down, you're gonna know that I put you down playing at, and I beat you at your own game. So pick whatever stipulation you want. I'm willing to get just as violent as you are. But so yeah, Jake accepting the challenge. Segment rating of 27. Losing heat for the storyline. So this storyline's not exactly being built on promos, but hopefully it's being built in the ring, and we will see what kind of match they come up. Well, Brody really comes up with for Final Resolution. And then we get, I don't remember how I planned this, but basically, I think last week there was a 2-on-1 and backstage attack. I'm gonna double check my notes because I don't remember. I'm pretty sure there was a 2-on-1 attack backstage. Dun, 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 dun. Yes. Or it was mostly, yeah, now I remember, because basically Austin was yelling at Eddie Edwards backstage, or yeah, and Austin was yelling at Eddie backstage. Eddie goes to confront him. He kind of walks into attack from Lance Archer and eventually turns into a 2-on-1. So, yeah, or mostly like Archer beating down Eddie Edwards with Ace Austin trash talking. And I think this is Eddie Edwards coming out to the ring, challenging Lance Archer to a match at Final Resolution. He knows that Austin, Austin's mouth is running, and Austin's mouth can't exactly, you know, cash the checks, whatever that saying is, but he knows Archer can. He knows Archer wants that fight, and Eddie's going to give it to him, and he wants it 1-on-1. Austin, you can show up, you can jaw jack at ringside all you want. You can even stick your nose in the business, but I want Archer in the ring. Me and him, 1-on-1, head to head, at Final Resolution to see who the better man is. So another match made for Final Resolution: Eddie Edwards versus Lance Archer. Segment rating of 45. Good number despite how little I had actually planned for that. Uh, but yeah, Eddie's one of our top guys, so that's kind of to be expected. We this segment I know I wanted to happen into the ring, so uh, the Crusade, all four members come out. They're all dressed to wrestle. They all make their entrance together. They all step in the ring, and they're all kind of looking at each other, wondering who their opponents are. They demanded a match. They demanded uh, some shape or form to be on tonight's show by D'Lo Brown. And after like a minute or so of waiting, Colby finally takes the microphone and he's just like, "All right, what's the deal? We looked at the run sheet where we basically saying like, yeah, D'Lo, we told you we wanted a match, some shape or form, tonight on Impact. We looked at the run sheet. We looked at it. It just said Crusade for this segment. So here we are. We're out here, but there are no opponents. You did not give us any opponents. So what gives? Where's our opponents?" And D'Lo comes out and he's like, "Oh man, I guess I must have slipped my mind. I slotted you guys in I wrote in Crusade. I wanted to make sure you guys got a match on Impact because that's what you wanted, right? But I guess I got too busy and must have slipped my mind. I couldn't find opponents for you. But, I'm looking at all four of you. You're all dressed to wrestle. You guys want to prove yourselves? You four can wrestle each other. See who the better man is, And he just kind of like chuckles to himself. He's like, "You guys have a good night. You have a good match. Uh, may the better man win. Good luck out there." So, segment rank of 27. Colby Carino did not do well without a script. I don't remember booking this as unscripted, but yeah, Colby not doing well, but whatever. But yeah, D'Lo Brown booking a four-way match between all the members of the Crusade. Um, and we kind of get um a feeling out process for the first couple minutes. People don't want to necessarily they're all on the same team. They don't want to attack each other. Eventually, Colby kind of like lays down and says someone can pin him, but they don't want the pin that way. And then they decide eventually that it should be 3-on-1 versus Hikuleo since he's the big man. And eventually they get him out of the ring, and it turns out to be like a quick three-way and whatever. But eventually, it's really out of all the people, Anthony Henry getting the win over John Skyler. Basically, like Colby tries to roll up John Schuyler with holding the tights. Anthony Henry, comes in, breaks it up. John Schuyler rolls him up. Anthony Henry reverses the roll up. He gets the win. Segment rating of 33. It was kind of a test just to see how kind of like over these guys are. Colby with an in ring of 40. I didn't necessarily want him to get the win, even because that would kind of just be too obvious. Anthony Henry, not getting as many wins, so I kind of just threw him the win here. In ring of 26, which is kind of disappointing, but he's still relatively new here. Schuyler with a 31, Hikuleo with a 26. Henry and Schuyler were both off their game. Schuyler has a gimmick that's getting stale, so I got to look at his gimmick. But like I said, Hikuleo going to New Japan, so he might not even be in this group in the near future. So, um, it seems like they're still all on good terms despite having this four-way, despite D'Lo Brown kind of meddling in their affairs, and uh, there's at points where probably during the match where a couple of them argue and Colby's like, "No, don't be like that. That's what D'Lo wants," and stuff like that. But they try to have a fair match between all four of them, and even though Colby tries to maybe uh, get a handful of tights or puts his feet on the ropes for a little bit, but Henry and Schuyler and Hikuleo really just kind of wanting their shot. But yep, Anthony Henry getting the win. Segment ring of 33. And then we go backstage where we kind of see D'Lo Brown walking away from like the gorilla position and through backstage kind of like chuckling to himself about like what he just did about putting the Crusade in a four-way match, having them wrestle each other. When he's confronted by Chucky T, and Chucky's like, "There you are. I've been looking for you all night." And he just kind of like starts shoving him by the shoulders. And D'Lo's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Like, you know, Chucky T is like, "Yeah, you want to make matches again, you want to make matches against people, well, I got an idea. I got an idea for you." And then he's kind of like shoving him into a direction, and that direction ends up being where Danhausen and Mance Warner are hanging out, and they get all defensive, and Chucky T's like, "You guys want to make a match against me? You want to put me in a handicap match?" And D'Lo's like, "Is that what this is all about?" He's like, "I told you, you can have a tag team partner. You just got to go get one. I'm willing to make this now. I'm willing to, make this be fair. Make this a 2-on-2 tag match." And Chucky T's like, "No, I told you what I told you. I can beat these two nerds, by myself. But if this is gonna be a handicap match, I want to, close up the handicap a little bit more. I want Danhausen and Mance Warner to wrestle a match next week on Impact. I want them, you know, if you want to call it a warm up match, that's fine. I call it a wear down match. I think it's only fair if I have to fight two of them." D'Lo's like, "I told you, you can get a partner." And Chucky's like, "I don't need a partner, but I need them to get their ass kicked next week on Impact. And you know what? You guys won't know who the team is. I'm gonna pick the team. You guys can go in blind, and we're gonna make this handicap match fair." And D'Lo's like, kind of like exhausted, and looks to Danhausen and Mance Warner's like, "Do you guys agree to this?" And Mance's like, "Yeah, hell yeah, I want to fight." And Danhausen doesn't really care. He's probably like playing with his briefcase. And Tito's like, I guess I'll draw up the papers, Chucky T. If you want to pick the opponents, fine." And Chucky T is basically like reveling in his victory, thinking he kind of like put one over on Danhausen and Mance Warner. But we'll see if that happens next week. Mance and Danhausen kind of in a warm up slash wear down match next week. Segment rating of 44. Chucky T's hot catchphrase. Maybe I guess he says fuck or something. I don't know. He won't say fuck. is a tape show. Well, it's not a tape show, it's a live show, but we can't have that on TV. And then we get like an in-ring town hall with Knockouts champion Bianca Blair, and she talks about how last week there was a number one contenders match, and Rosemary between Rosemary and Tasha Steelz, and Tasha Steelz won, and Bianca Blair just kind of congratulates Tasha Steelz, and you know is psyched, and she's new here in Impact. She's never faced Tasha Steelz before. She's never faced. She's got a whole new set of opponents to go after. She's never faced anyone like Rosemary before, and she beat her. And she doesn't. She's never faced anyone like Tasha Steelz before, and she's excited to see what Tasha has. And Tasha interrupts her speech, and Tasha's like, "Yeah, you can congratulate my ass. You know, you think you can come in here and just because you you wrestled up north or whatever, you wrestled on big pay-per-views, you think you can come down here and squeeze people like me out of our spots. you know I created a group of women, and we came together to take our spots, and we are working hard for our spots, and we're not going to let people like you just swoop in and take them. So I'm glad to be, facing you at Final Resolution. Basically confirms the Knockouts title match for the pay per view. And Tasha's like, the last Knockouts champion I pinned twice, and I'm gonna pin you. And you talk about how you're the EST, you're the fastest, the biggest, the strongest, whatever. I'm gonna beat the EST out of you at Final Resolution and take that belt. Take that belt. I've been wanting, and it's finally my time, and I'm not gonna let someone like you just swoop in and take that chance from me. So, kind of an impassioned speech from Tasha Steelz. Bianca is just kind of just like, bring it, whatever you got. You're my first title defense, and I'm gonna give you everything I got. You give me everything you got, and let's do it. So, segment rating of 45, gaining heat for the storyline. Bianca Blair defending the title against Tasha Steelz at Final Resolution confirmed. And then we go to our main event made last week. Alex Shelley versus Rhino. About a month or so ago, we had Chris Sabin versus Heath, and Chris Sabin got the win over Heath. This time, Alex Shelley getting the win over Rhino. So the tag team champions of Impact having singles matches or singles match victories over their opponents at Final Resolution that they're defending the tag team titles against. So Alex Shelley tapping Rhino out after 13 minutes with a Border City stretch. Basically, Rhino goes for the gore. Shelley dodges. Rhino hits the corner. Shelley kind of rolls Rhino up and into the submission, the Border City stretch, and Rhino tries to fight out of it, but he's basically centered in the middle of the ring. He's telling him to fight through it. Just tell him, pull himself through, make it to the ropes, break the hold. But Rhino can't take it. He ends up tapping. Alex Shelley getting the win. Rhino and Heath feeling fairly dejected. Like I said, they both have singles losses to the tag team champions, and their match at Final Resolution, maybe, who knows? They're going against the self-proclaimed best tag team in Impact history, but many people believe that as well, and they've been proving it. So, segment rating of 48, storyline gaining heat. Alex Shelley with a 52, Rhino with a 42. And yeah, I think, after the match, have a celebration with the tag team titles or tag team champions, the Motor City Machine Guns. they celebrate their way to the back with the belts and kind of like point and laugh a little bit at Heath and Rhino, but Heath is just kind of like Rhino is just kind of like sitting in the ring. He's just bummed in himself, especially having to tap out, and he's just kind of like helping him up to his feet and telling him it's all right. We still got the pay-per-view. We still got the title match. But Rhino's just kind of like muttering. He's like, "I'm sorry, man. I had to tap. I'm sorry. I couldn't hold out." So the contenders for the tag team champions not doing the greatest, but we'll see how that works out with Final Resolution. Sigma 56 for their celebration, so uh, probably the segment of the night. But even though that was the main event, even though this is a segment rating of the night, we got one more segment. Segment rating of 53 for our final segment, which is pretty good. Not as good as the last segment, but still pretty good. But it's Christian Cage, our Impact World Champion. He comes out to the ring with his world title. Reminder last week, Josh Alexander put down the challenge, or not the challenge because their match has already been made, but Josh wants Jeff Jarrett to be special ringside enforcer for their match. Christian Cage came out and just simply said no and walked back. This tonight, he comes out to the ring with his belt, with the microphone, and he wants to apologize to Josh Alexander, and he says, maybe I was a little rash in my decision. You kind of sprung that option on me, and I didn't feel like I had time to react, so I reacted the way I did. And honestly, on paper, it's an honest reaction to have. You and your buddy Jeff Jarrett, you and your retired mentor Jeff Jarrett, you want him at ringside. Jeff Jarrett, a man who I've never liked, a man who I've had plenty of battles with for world titles, a man I've beat plenty of times, a man who is frankly jealous of the instant classic Christian Cage. You want him at ringside to be an enforcer in our match? Of course I would come out and say no. But just, I went home, I thought about it, and I'm like, maybe that could work out. Maybe, the thing about it is you can't just bring something so one-sided on me and not, expect to put anything else on the line. I'm putting the Impact World title on the line. I'm putting my reputation on the line. And you want to come out and just have your buddy Jeff Jarrett at ringside? No. If you want that, you got to put something on the line. So I know how much you love this title, how much you want to regain this title, and how much you want to put Impact on your back again. And quite frankly, you did a hell of a job this past year. You beat plenty of names, but you couldn't beat Christian Cage. So I'm willing to let Jeff Jarrett be at ringside for our match at Final Resolution. But if you lose, you can't challenge for the world title for an entire year. For 2023, you had a great 2022. It's time for it's time for you to step aside and someone like Christian Cage to put Impact on their backs or on their back for 2023. Be the carry that banner. You know, it, and I know I was originally going to say, maybe you can't challenge for the title while I'm champion, but of course, if you did that and you lost, and next time I have a title match, you come in, you cost me the title, and suddenly you're available for a title shot again, I'm not going to let that happen. If you lose, you cannot have shot at the world title for an entire year. It's what you got to put on the line if you want your buddy Jeff Jarrett at ringside. So, Josh, you had your offer last week. There's my offer. I'm putting that on the table. What's your answer? And Josh comes out. He's got a microphone on his own. And at first, he just kind of he wants to say no. He wants to say no, just like Christian Cage did last week. But the word can't come out of his mouth. He thinks about it, and he's just like, when I won that title earlier in the year, I put my Impact career on the line to get it, and I won. I won that title. I saved my career. I put my career on the line, and that was the motivation for me to win that Impact World title. If that's the motivation for me to win the Impact title and defeat you once and for all, fine, I'll do it. And Christian just beaming, he's smiling, he's like, great. He's like, and he's like, you want Jeff Jarrett at ringside? You got to put that on the line. And Josh is like, I'll do it. I want Jeff Jarrett at ringside to be fair and impartial. But if that means if I lose, I can't win, I can't challenge for the world title for an entire year. I can't put Impact on my back like I have been throughout 2022. I can't do that throughout 2023. Fine, I'll do it, but I'll use that to motivate me to win, just like putting my career on the line did earlier in the year. So the match, even though the match itself has been made, the stipulations are set. Well, not exactly set because we're not gonna say it, but next week will likely be a contract signing to make sure all of these stipulations remain in effect. So Christian Cage defending the world title against Josh Alexander at Final Resolution. Jeff Jarrett will be the special ringside enforcer, but if Josh wins, he gets the Impact World title back. But if Josh loses, he can't challenge for the world title for an entire year. That's a big deal to Josh. So that's how we end our show. Segment rating of 53. Show rating of 50 overall. That's got to be up there. Other than our boys, Dalton Castle and the boys segment, we've had a fairly good show. Our X Cup matches did well. Our Crusade match, maybe not so much, but we ended up strong. We have, Chucky T continuing to be a thorn in the side of Danhausen and Mance Warner. Bianca Blair defending the title against Tasha Steelz at Final Resolution. Alex Shelley defeating Rhino in the main event, and the Morse Machine Guns kind of solidifying, them maybe possibly having the upper hand over their opponents, the next team to challenge them for the world title, tag team titles, Heath and Rhino, and we get Christian Cage and Josh Alexander coming to terms with what is truly on the line at Final Resolution. Not just the world title, but Josh Alexander's possible future with the world title. If he wins, he regains the title. He can go into 2023 as Impact World Champion. He loses, he has to spend basically 2023 without being world champion. So we'll see how that goes. We got one more week till Final Resolution. Well, yeah, one more week, one more show of Impact, and then another couple days. So we'll have new triple Impact champions. We'll figure out how the World X Cup shakes out. Brody King and Jake something in some kind of match. Next week we have the Knockouts tag team titles on the line. Mickie James or BFFs versus Mickie James and a partner of her choosing. So yeah, lots of things going on, and we got one more show till final resolution. So until then, thanks for watching.